Welcome back to the WoW News. Today, it's spicy, but it is going to end well. So, we've got the fun story of Blizzard almost destroying Legion Remix. Almost. We hope. There are big changes coming. But then, even more insane midnight reveals that Blizzard really should have told us about. And finally, for once, some really good impressions about the game as a whole. So, that said, let's get stuck in. If you haven't been paying close attention, you may not know that Legion Remix was almost a very close call. Essentially, Blizzard kind of almost torpedoed it, and here's how it all went down. PTR testers hopped on, they were super excited to give it a spin, and right away, it looked amazing. It had tons of content and even custom new voiced quests to connect it all together, and at a glance, everything was good. In our video, we said it felt like they'd given it a lot more love, that it felt like a real patch worth of content. But that's actually where some of the problems started. You see, over the next 2 weeks, as testing continued, some mistakes began to become obvious. Now, this was good. It's what the PTR is actually for. And what it generated was PTR players drafting huge posts detailing all of their complaints, and those posts then taking off. Now, the biggest one was by Mantid9 over on Reddit. It's a huge breakdown, and I'll just skip to his conclusion. Quote, "They time-gated everything, made the event feel like retail, and kneecapped the infinite scaling to the point where it might as well barely even exist." And his final line is real scathing. "I was looking forward to playing Legion Remix, but instead it feels like I'm playing retail with a bronze vendor." And sadly, it's not just him. Looking across the internet, people largely did feel the same. Some basically call it more Legion Season of Discovery than Legion Remix. That seems like a lot, so what actually went wrong? I'll explain. Blizzard didn't seem to get what the real draw of Mop Remix was for some players. Basically, we loved it because it was goddamn broken. Legion Remix, unfortunately, is not goddamn broken. Or should I say was. Stats were hamstrung to reasonable levels. Leveling actually took more time. Gear felt random and boring. The artifact weaponry is fun to play with, but it doesn't scale up fast enough and high enough. You wouldn't be doing crazy things like nuking dungeons and raids in seconds. And I won't bore you on any more of the details, so basically, here's the vibes. Mop Remix was like the last day of school. Everyone understood it didn't matter, the rules didn't matter, and yeah, you brought your Game Boy or Nintendo DS in, teachers put on a VHS or maybe a digital video disc and went for a big smoke break. Yeah, so you're in school, but there's no rules. That felt amazing, and that's what Mop Remix captured. Legion Remix, though, was kind of like a school-mandated fun day, where it's still not real school, but the teacher is over your shoulder making sure you're having fun the proper way. Essentially, it was more prescriptive and was a disappointment. Basically, it was almost as if Blizzard misunderstood what the fun was. And here's where the good news comes in. The feedback has been heard loud and clear, so they're making sweeping changes to it. They've announced an extra round of testing with some fairly major improvements, which boil down to more speed, more power, and more fun. We don't know what that means specifically, but it does sound like exactly what the feature needed. So here's hoping they know how far they actually need to go with that, because otherwise, all their genuinely good work on it would have been wasted. Perhaps it's the case that the innovations and things they were doing to the open world with Legion Remix initially almost felt like more of a test of what retail WoWs like open world endgame could be, and in that context, lots of it looked like a major bit of forward progression, but it wasn't the last day of school. And that's what a lot of people really wanted, a big blast before midnight starts. More than anything though, one particular developer has been consistently active in responding to feedback in Discord, and that has been quite heartening to me. So we know the concern has been heard. I think that's never a bad sign. It's good when devs feel able to communicate. So hopefully, within the next week or two, we'll be able to tell you how the testing has went. Till then though, we need to talk about Midnight. How does simplified professions sound to you? And I think we've talked about how scuffed the Midnight reveal has been to death, but there's still info coming out, and one of the new bits of info is professions. You see, in the last Taliesin and Avatel video, he just casually said that they are, quote, greatly simplifying professions. And what they're doing is, at least, removing the bronze and silver quality ranks. I do assume they're going to be doing more than that, because it's been an open secret that professions are to many players, a complicated nightmare. I kind of like what Blizzard was shooting for, maybe just WoW isn't the game for that particular system in the way that they made it. Anyway, overall I would say this is good news, but it turns out he only found out about this because of a casual conversation he had with a developer. So basically, if that didn't happen to come up in that conversation, we would have no idea, which is wild. And given the wide response, I expect a WoWcast or a series of posts next week. That's because Blizzard know it did not go well. Internally, they're probably scrambling. My impression is they know that. Taliesin and Avatel's impression was also that they know that, and that the actual developers on the show floor also knew that the reveal had been basically scuffed. Now, there are some other little tidbits slipping out as well, and they're pretty interesting. One is a hard confirmation that houses can be different styles in the same neighborhood. So, if you want an orcish house in your Alliance neighborhood, yeah, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. Now, sadly, some pretty massive questions went completely unasked. As an example, crests and valor stones. What's going on there, guys? That's another system that works, but has gotten both complicated and restrictive. As an example, as heroic raiders, me and most of my guild are capped on ruined crests almost instantly on reset, and we've got no way to progress our characters without then doing Mythic Plus. And it feels bad when you're capped in crests, doing content, but, not getting any crests for the content that you're doing. But for the last while, we know that Ian has wanted to simplify this system. They probably had something to tell us about that, because we know it's something they want to do. It's just that nobody asked about that at Gamescom, which means we quite simply don't know, so hopefully we get some blogs soon. Okay, the next news isn't huge, but it will feel important to loads of you. So, the Spanish site Alter Time learned a whole bunch more about the story and about Silvermoon. The Alliance-friendly bit will be the currently destroyed part, and the original bit will be the Horde-only side. I think that's fairly cool, and the faction split is going to be part of the story. Basically, the fact that Alliance Paladins show up and act like they own the place is going to be a problem. Maria said there'll be increasing frictions as time goes by between the factions. So there you have it. We actually are going to have some faction storytelling. Thank God, we've just been missing good faction stuff. Now, another slice of the story that we've been worried about is the light. We haven't had the story itself show us light as being sort of potentially bad or misused in a long time in a big way. But actually, that's going to change, and I think this is really cool. Harandar's story is going to be about how the light found a foothold there and is actually causing problems with nature. We'll also learn some ancient Azerothian history down there, and they also managed to find out how the expansion starts. It wasn't just a bunch of paladins that the Sunwell summoned. The expansion actually starts with, well, us showing up to answer the call alongside a very unexpected creature. Okay, Alter Time had a second interview as well, but the only huge thing to come out of that one was that they currently have no plans for a third round of Plunderstorm, and that does mean that you can find me in the nearest cupboard crying. I really did like it. But even I'll admit that Plunderstorm Round 2 did feel quite undercooked, and I know that it wasn't the most popular thing with you guys. So, fair enough, willing to let it die. At least I got memories. But with that said, let's move on to some really good news. The good news is this: Blizzard's Encounter team are getting really damn good at their jobs. A little bit of context, my guild is now 6 out of 8 in Heroic. We've been having a great time going in, blind with almost no add-ons. I'm actually playing with 0 add-ons other than the ones that allow my console sort of gamepad experiment to go. I essentially started with one button, and I've been building my way out to playing, I suppose, a bit more properly, not just using the one button thingy. Now, at the same time, the race to World First is also being quite seriously called the best race of all time. And the clearest way to explain it is this tweet from JB. It really was that precise. They managed to just make it feel absolutely perfect. The race was neck and neck for hours on end. Now, some Giga Mythic Sweatlords maybe don't matter to you. That's totally cool. But I want you to think of it this way. The race was extremely hype, and that drew a ton of eyeballs. It drew eyeballs to Dimensius, which is one of the best fights the game has ever had. If you really deeply appreciate the Encounter game mechanics, yes, there's a lot there. But if you're just a casual fan, Fairweather fan, and you just see the sheer spectacle, the grandeur of that fight, the music, you're going to think, wow, WoW is actually doing something that kind of slaps. And that's important. If you were there during the Shadowlands era, you would know that the vibes are super important. And I'd say that with most of this patch, the vibes have actually been great. Ian himself even showed up to the Echo stream and had a mini interview live. It's pretty cool. People there were saying that he just seemed really excited by it all, and he was even getting a bit distracted mid-conversation by watching the pulls. So seeing your game director get distracted in an interview because he's invested in the race that's happening is damn good PR, the best PR that you can have, because it's natural. It's the sort of thing that you can't book on a calendar. Now, don't get me wrong, 11.2 is not perfect. Ecological Succession is not getting great reviews, to put it lightly. The world content does seem surprisingly sparse this time round, and we've definitely got a few little complaints about how the story ended, but as a whole, there's a good energy going into Midnight, and the reason why I'm excited for Midnight in a way that doesn't depend on a big, shiny, new, exciting, game-changing, massive reveal feature is quite simply because I've enjoyed playing the content a hell of a lot. So just getting more content in a bunch of zones that I really care about is kind of enough to really make me excited. So I think when Alpha lands and people see all the new stuff in action, I think then we'll get more excitement and we'll start to undo the damage from the scuffed reveal. Especially, by the way, with all of the UI changes Blizzard are making. And if you want to learn all about those, and trust me, you do, go check out this video next, because it's pretty awesome.